scene number 1 in verse 1, chapter 4. He comes up in this first scene with 3 different reasons or excuses, pleas to God to not send him. He's going to come up with 3, and God is graciously going to give him 3 provisions as to why those problems should not stop him. Look at verse 1, and his first response is, "But behold, God, they will not believe me or listen to my voice, for they will say, Yahweh did not truly send you." Now, we can understand that Moses thinks this way. Well, we can get in his mind that he's thinking the Israelites will not listen to me. They don't like me. Because do you remember back in the earlier chapter when Moses tried to be their rescuer and deliverer, they openly said, "We don't want a part of you." The guy who was the criminal beating up the other dude, he said, "Get out of here, I don't want your justice." And the dude getting beaten up and the people around him kind of agreed and went, yeah, we don't need you. You white-collar prince of Egypt, up from your effeminate little office over there where you get your grapes fed to you and your palm fronds waved to you. Thank you very much. But me and the lashes on my back say no thanks. So we can understand that Moses is now here trying to fill in God to something he's clearly ignorant of. Just going, they're not actually my biggest fans. I don't want to go back to the Israelites. They're not going to listen. And it's at this point that they say that he is given the 3 miraculous signs. First of all, as you saw, was the taking of the staff, his shepherd's staff, his weapon and his defense and how he would lead the sheep. He was to take that, throw it on the ground, and it became the serpent. And then the other miraculous part of it was that he was to go and grab it, Steve Irwin style, okay? Not National Geographic and those soft American wildlife people, Steve Irwin style, where you grab it by the tail. Now the risk there, if you've ever watched any of the old Steve Irwin stuff, the risk there is that the head is entirely free to lash and strike you. And so he's just picking it up by the tail like an ignorant child, and that is still extremely dangerous. And yet in that moment, it will become safe again and not a danger to him. And what this was, if I can be crass this morning, I'm going to be, it's just flipping the bird to Pharaoh. That's what it's doing. The middle finger straight in Pharaoh's face. Literally. You know what sat on the forehead of Pharaoh in his headdress and in his crown was the face of a cobra. It was a symbol that between him and Ra and the gods was a connection of the divine, so that he was the God-man king. The Pharaoh had in his head the symbol of power, the threatening face of a cobra, and here's God saying to Moses, you're going to make a cobra out of your stick, you're going to pick it up without getting harmed, because that is what is going to happen to you and to Pharaoh as you go back in to take my people back. Don't fear Pharaoh is what was being symbolized in that snake miracle. And then there's another area where the other miracle where he's told, all right, chuck your hand into your cloak, pull it back out, right? No doves, no unending handkerchief. It's not one of those tricks. He pulls it out and his flesh is rotting and falling off and leprous. It's like snow. Pretty dangerous. And then back in it goes and back out it comes, perfectly healed like the other flesh. Now history tells us that in Egypt, especially this time, leprosy was a common, irreparable, incurable disease. The Egyptians were actually kind of known for their uncleanliness and their leprosy. Now, leprosy is not necessarily the same thing we know, that one disease that we call leprosy today. In the Old Testament, it's a catch-all for a bunch of disgusting skin diseases. And so in Egypt, this was common. And what God was showing Moses, and what he was going to be showing through Moses to the people, is that your diseases, which the Egyptian gods only heal sometimes, and only after many, many sacrifices and being appeased, God can heal in an instant. God can heal in a moment the leprosy of Egypt. And so these 2 first miracles are a sign of grace and mercy and salvation and redemption, that which is dangerous, Pharaoh and the serpent, will be put down. And that which is deadly, the leprosy and the sin and uncleanliness, God will step in and bring healing. But God says, if they don't listen to the first, show them the second. I get it. If they don't listen to the second, then you shall do the third. I don't think that this is a please believe me miracle. I actually think that this is the miracle of judgment. That if they do not believe what God has evidently shown before them through the signs, then he is to take the life source of all of Egypt, the Nile. They actually believed that the Nile was this God, this God Hapi, who would appear to the Egyptians in a manifestation of the overflowing of the Nile. That was him / her. He was a hermaphrodite demon god. Okay, do we still have those today? Yeah, kinda. They're called MTV, other things like that, you know. They like us today, they sort of had this spectrum of gender among their gods, and this one god was a hermaphrodite. He would come and fertilize the soil like a man, and then live amongst it and nourish the soil to life like a woman. And so this man, we'll just call him Zer, right? Zer Hapi was integrated and married in the Nile, and there was a couple of other gods involved in the Nile as well. And so, but it was the life source of Egypt. That's what gave it its riches and its power and its access and made it such a superpower. And God's saying, go and take a bottle of it. Go and bottle up some beautiful spring Nile water that goes for $10 a bottle at the shops. Go, and then that source of life, turn it into a sign of death. Take the life blood of Egypt, pour it out on the ground, and it will become literal blood. It's kind of an upside down irony here that he's showing them that like blood is a sign of life, right? Until you can see it, then it's a bad sign. Right? If you've got your own blood all over your hands, you're not supposed to conclude, I'm really alive. Look at all the blood I have. Right? And if you just shove it back in and zip something up and cauterize it, it's not better that, well, it's on the inside where it's supposed to be. By the time you see your blood, it's kind of like your heart. You need one. You want to be sure you've got one. You never want to lay eyes on it. And so here he is, he's going, take the blood, pour it out, and you're not supposed to look at it and think, life, blood, God's giving life. No, he's turning water into death by pouring blood out. If you will not believe the first two signs, then show them the judgment that God can wreak upon Egypt and all those who do not believe. So firstly, he says, they won't believe me. God says to him, do these three miracles. They will believe.